Welcome, this is John Hyman from Commercial Real Estate Online. I'm going further now into this particular topic relating to the industrial property checklist, and of course how you can work with industrial properties effectively when it comes to listing in sales and leasing scenarios. And you should probably be a person that can work both sales and leasing opportunities, because one thing will lead to another over time, and that's why one good agent should be working both segments of the market. So in earlier videos, I started the matrix and went through points number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They are the development costs, the land costs, warehouse design, the rents, the types, the leases, etc., and also best methods of sale and also pricing. So today I'm going to cover a few more and take you into the industrial property checklist further. Of course, you can, from this video, make a checklist for yourself which covers all of these topics, and you can add to your list the special allowances that occur in your town or city. There are many different things to think about, so let's move on, and this is point number 6, which is the transport corridors as they relate to industrial property. Now what I'm saying here is that transport corridors are quite important when it comes to industrial property placement and the operation over time. Of course, transport corridors will change in your town or city, but not very quickly, so you should be able to see the change and any impacts that do occur on your industrial property tenants, because most of them need to have access to raw materials, also goods, parts, that sort of thing, and also materials going out of their location into the markets that they supply. So what I'm suggesting here is that you have a transport corridors checklist like this. Firstly, the airports, how far away are they? How functional are they for industrial tenants? The freeways will be important for truck access, deliveries, etc. How do the freeways work? How do they work for your particular industrial tenant? Then there are the highways. The highways will be further to the freeways, perhaps not as large in format, perhaps not as significant, but they all link together. So the freeways and the highways come together for delivery purposes for your industrial tenant. Then you need to look at the transport corridors, which are inbound transport corridors for your industrial business. Where do they get their transport from? How can the transport get into your town or city? And that will include railheads and seaports. So think about those things and understand how they can also work for your particular industrial zone, precinct, and the tenants that you work with, or businesses. Now, some industrial businesses like to access overseas and interstate ports, and you should look at how that occurs. Of course, some towns and cities have those access points readily organised at the edge of their town or city so that the transport corridors can work quite well. So understand the outbound transport corridors, taking into account all of these things that I've mentioned here. So transport corridors, that's the checklist. Airports, freeways, highways, seaports, railheads. How practical are they for your particular industrial business or precinct? Let's go further. There will be transport costs, of course, relating to moving goods in and out of your town or city for those businesses that you work with. There'll be air, rail, road and sea. And it can sometimes pay you to talk to the suppliers of those transport facilities to understand the costs, because they can come into your discussions with new business owners who want to move into a precinct. They need to know just where they can get their transport services from and how much those transport costs are. It's worthwhile asking the question. Going further, services and amenities. Now, this is a good checklist to have for your industrial properties. Air conditioning, of course, within the office area of the building. Not necessarily the warehouse, although some warehouses require climate control and or cool rooms, so understand that. Car parking on the property for both staff and customers. Climate control, which does relate to special warehouse storage facilities. Drainage from the property. Understanding, of course, the special situations of drainage, which might involve hazardous goods or other situations which may need to be allowed for as part of tenancy and business control in the asset. Then there will be electricity, the type of electricity that you can get to the asset. It's whether it's a high tension power load system, 3-phase, which many industrial businesses require, and gas supplies for some businesses, roads, of course. Security within the property will be not only fences, but also security within the building, and also any special security systems such as access cards and cameras and that sort of thing. There'll be a sewer system in the area, understand its capability and its functionality for industrial businesses. Signage on the property will be important, of course, because some businesses like to have a big presence on the property by way of naming rights or signage. Then, of course, there'll be waste from the property. That can be special waste related to the manufacturing in the site or the business activities of that business within the site. And they could be hazardous goods wastes, so understand how that's controlled on site and how it is removed. Then, of course, there's the standard water supply, how that will occur within the asset. So let's go a little bit further and cover point number 9. That is raw materials. Now, this is relevant to specific businesses based on the industry segments that they work within. So raw materials will go to that property for manufacturing purposes. If you work in a town that's geared closely to certain industries such as mining or timber, that sort of thing, then raw materials will come and go from the industrial precinct. Understand how those trucks access the area and how they deliver and remove materials from the industrial precinct. Going a bit further into labour access, it's a worthwhile point to consider because in this segment of the industrial property location and precinct assessment, you need to think about the labour for the industrial business, where they can get their staff from, and of course, is it possible to get staff to that area 24/7? That will be impacted largely by public transport, and some industrial precincts are not serviced well by public transport. On that basis, you do need to think about car parking, etc. for staff out of hours, and that then flows into security, so many things are linked there. Of course, many industrial businesses require administrative support, that is the office people to help the business run to its premium and optimal situation. So administrative support staff will need to come and go from the property at certain times. Also skilled labour within the warehouse and also specialised skill labour as well. So that is the end of point number 10, which was labour access in its assessment for industrial properties. So what I've done here today is I've covered off on a number of different topics, most particularly the transport corridors. There they are again, think about that. I also covered off on the transport costs, special transport costs for precincts, understand what they are. I then covered off on the services and amenities that apply in an industrial site. And lastly, I went to raw materials as far as delivery and manufacturing and labour access. So all of those things are important when you're thinking about assessing an industrial property checklist. So there are other things here as well, which I'll go into in a subsequent video, but you, for the moment, can certainly get your industrial property checklist underway and add to these particular topics elements which are specific to your location. Sure, you can take the topics that I've mentioned here, but you can add to it. Add to it and make it the list that works for your location, your town, your city. And if you didn't see the earlier video, I'll just recap very quickly on these other aspects. Number 1, development costs. There they are. Make a list of them. Number 2, the land costs. Number 3, warehouse design. Number 4, rents, leases, terms and conditions, etc. Number 5, prices and best methods of sale. Number 6, transport corridors. Number 7, transport costs. Number 8, services and amenities. Number 9, raw materials. And lastly, number 10, labour access. So that's the checklist for today. There are a number of other topics here which I will cover in the next video. Thanks for listening. This is John Hyman signing off for now. Catch you again very soon online.